hello, Nick Bentley from Bils Rye in Harrogate.
Hello. Good evening to everyone.
Um, why is it called Bils Rye?
It's geographical, actually. So when I started the gallery 10 years ago, I was near Helmsley, which is where Bilsdale and Rydale met. So I just
Ah,
took the Dales out of there and got Bils and Rye.
I think it's a
And
fab name. I just was like, what's that?
it's just purely geographical. I've been called Bill by so many people over the years. And I think only 6 or 7 people have worked out where it derives from, which is great.
I thought maybe
It's one
your
of those
dad's
names
name.
that stick.
Yeah, I thought maybe your dad's name was
Yeah.
Bill and you came from Rye.
I
But
always
that
said it was the wife with the big bills and me with the right humour, but never mind. Cool. And then I needed rye to get over it. Anyway,
I think names are fascinating, aren't they? I think
yeah,
names of what we call things. People often ask me why pure is called pure, and artists giving their names to their artwork. That's always a fascinating thing. And how, when clients come in, do they talk to you about the titles of the work?
yeah, that certainly happens. And funny enough, it seems to be one of the things. Well, I don't see why they've called it that. I don't get that at all. And very rarely do people say that's spot on. You can exactly what they've called it. It's always the negative. It's really quite funny. But I guess a gallery is a place where you can express yourself, or we certainly encourage it anyway in the gallery. So people come and they can be really quite negative at the names, but there's a connection for the artist, and that's really what matters.
I know it's the buyer wants to connect with the piece, and if the name doesn't, what I found when I've been showing work is if they see a piece and they connect with it, and then the name doesn't kind of reinforce that connection, they get very cross.
Yeah. Particularly if it's location orientated, that's
Yes.
even worse. It's like if they see it and it's like they think it's Suffolk, and yet it's actually North Yorkshire or Cornwall or wherever. It's suddenly you've lost the sale. You can't you
Yeah.
can't win them back. So we
Yeah.
do kind of encourage artists to be uh, less specific in their titles.
That's happened to me. I've
But
lost a sale
yeah,
because someone's wanted it to be the
yeah,
Cotswolds and it was actually,
yeah,
yeah, somewhere else. They're like, oh, well, it's
yeah.
not the place, so I'm not having it. And you're like, oh, so annoying.
Yes.
So going back a bit, when did
Yeah.
you first open the gallery? How long have you had the gallery in
So
Harrogate?
I open on Valentine's Day 2013. So started work on the gallery sort of September the year before 2012, and then opened the doors in February of 2013. It was really on a whim. I needed a job. I'd had a long-term health condition, which so I was kind of returning to work and felt sort of valueless and didn't really know what to do. I was married to an artist at the time who'd obviously piqued my interest. So I kind of worked as her agent for a few years, and so it just kind of went from there. And I'd had a real passion for ceramics for a long time. So when I opened it was all 3D, no paintings at all, and that was because the wife was in the next door studio space painting. So and I've always felt that I didn't really like artist-led galleries because it puts a pressure on the clients to buy the artist who's in residence rather than the work that they prefer. And from the gallery perspective, you've got such a high margin on something you've produced yourself that you're more likely to put it than the work that would fit the client's brief more closely. So I was determined never to go down that route. And eventually we were successful with 3D, and clients started asking us for paintings. So it kind of it kind of grew from there that we became a full service gallery.
So your artist then wife was not your first artist in the gallery?
No, no. In fact, I've never shown her work, and it's been a
Oh,
bone of contention over the years.
I can imagine.
Um, yeah,
Because artists all want a gallery, and she had a husband who was a gallery, and he was like, no.
No, no, absolutely not, because it just, there's a crossover, and I think sometimes you have to say we're selecting purely on uh, a specific look rather than a relationship. And yeah, actually, fun enough, you tend to build the relationships with the people who are closest in sort of personality to yourself. So most of the artists that I've worked with over the years have become friends as well, which is, it's really nice uh, symbiotic relationship then, that you're actually doing something to help them, and also and deriving an income, but you're also providing a lot more than that. The friendships run deep and long.
Yeah. So who was your first artist in the gallery then? Who was the first one that you went, would you like to be in the gallery?
It was a lady called Carla Pownall, who's a potter based on the Wirral. And it just happened that I'd been in an art venue in North Wales, and seen Raku pot that she'd made and really liked it, bought it, and got given the leaflet, and that's what really sparked. So she was the first, she was the go-to person to say, I really like what you've done, and any chance we're opening a gallery, will you supply us with some work? And actually, I've been over to see Carla a number of times over the years, and spent time. My daughters both learned how to throw a pot on the wheel with her. It's just a lovely relationship. So, and even though I don't sell her work anymore, we don't do very much ceramics, we're still in contact, and that is really nice.
You said you really, I collect ceramics as well. That's my kind of thing, and I'm actually doing a private pottery lesson this coming, I think, Sunday week. I absolutely love pottery. Yep. It's my kind of like guilty pleasure, really. What is it about pottery, do you think?
Initially, I think it was price point. It was when I started collecting, I didn't have any spare cash particularly, and pottery was something that's quite accessible. Quite individual, and it's been made with a hand, so you get that whole throughput of it's the ground, and then it's been turned into something quite usable, and there's just a magic about that. And you could give 10 people, all with the same skill level, the same ingredients of clay and glazes, and you get 10 different results. And so it's such a versatile product.
Yeah, it's exciting. I love it because of that connection, that physical connection that it's come out of the ground, and they've played, and then it's gone into that heat, and it hasn't turned and the risk of it ended up in like
this alchemy that you don't know. There's still an element of risk and chance, and the kiln gods are, they're renowned. That lots of potters put a little doll, if you like, in with the firing, just so that it's there to look after the pots they've spent so long making.
Yeah, I know. I had
interesting. It doesn't take long to make a pot, to physically make a pot. It's one of the things we often talk to clients about, is that it may only take 2 or 3 minutes to throw a pot, but it takes 20 years to be able to do that in 2 or 3 minutes.
Exactly. I think that's the same with all art, isn't it? It's like you're not buying something for the intrinsic couple of hours or days that it actually took. You're buying something that was a journey that's probably lifelong, that has led someone to where they're creating something that they are happy enough and they're proud enough to put it out in the world, which is massive anyway, and be judged and ask a fee for it. And that's a huge thing.
I think it was Ruskin who said the time has 2 values, and one is the time it takes to make, and the other is the time it takes that it takes for you to be able to make. And that's such a, it's so clever, such an insight. 10,000 hours is off and around, and it's true. It's true in so many walks of life.
I was going to say, I think that 10,000 hours doesn't just go for making art. I think that 10,000 hours goes for almost everything you do in life. There's no such thing as overnight success. There's 10,000 hours and then some level of tipping.
Yes. Yeah.
Where you think, oh, okay, I've reached a level where I feel brave enough now. I think artists are incredibly brave, I have to be honest.
Yeah. Well, they're putting themselves, their ideas, their brain is out on display. It's not just a conversation. It's something that lasts forever.
And people exchange their money that they've gone to work and worked hard for, or have been given, for something that that artist made. That's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not
I've always loved taking my daughters to art fairs, because particularly to ceramic fairs, because it's accessible for them, and so they'll ask for some money to invest so that they can buy a piece. And both my girls have got pieces they bought directly from an artist, and it's such a good thing to encourage them, because they see the result, they see the joy on the maker's face when someone young, because there's so many things that they could spend that money on.
Yeah, online games. Terrible.
Transient sweets, McDonald's, all of these sort of things.
Yeah.
Yet they're willing to say, I want that, because I identify with it straight away. It is lovely. There's joy on both. Well, for all three parties. There's me there as a proud father, and my daughters who've suddenly walked away with what they want, and that they cherish and look after, and the artist who's gone, I've got a new client.
Yeah, I think
they're young.
That's such a powerful message as well, about the fact that you're buying something from a human being. I mean, most things we buy, some are manufactured, but there's quite a lot still that is made by a human. And I always say, when someone buys a piece of artwork from us, I mean, that's not a big part of our business, but we still sell artwork. And when someone does, I say to them, thank you so much. There's an artist somewhere in their studio doing a little happy dance now. And singing. And that's just such a lovely, and I've seen them do it, and they're just so thrilled. And that's life-changing for them, every time they sell piece of work like that. As you say, it is lovely. It's very gratifying. Speaking of which, so you started with that first artist who you found in Wales and the Raku. How do you find artists now? How does that process work now?
A combination now. So I spend quite a lot of time doing research on the internet and looking at artists. So I go around the country and visit artists at their studios. I might visit other art galleries, go to art fairs, and really looking for something that fits with the look that we go for, the level of quality, the consistency, and there's evidence of growth within that. The artist is pushing boundaries, that they are not just resting on their laurels and having found a niche and sticking with it. We're looking for the ones that have that little turn of excitement. There's plenty of galleries up and down the country, branded as such, that offer that formulaic response, and I think it's the job of the independent galleries to not do that response, even though it could be more profitable for us. My perspective is that it's art because it's meritorious, because the artist is going on a journey and we're providing assistance for that journey. So there's kind of a moral message in there, but also life becomes incredibly boring if you don't follow sort of. So from the artist's perspective, it's brilliant if they're doing it, because they've got a far more interesting life because they're pushing boundaries. For me, I'm not looking at the same things over and over again and becoming I don't just tempered by the whole there's an excitement when something new comes in. So we recently had Jonathan Haley's work come into the gallery, and it's just it was one of those real breaking points going, and this is so exciting. And I actually had someone come in who'd bought some of Jonathan's work from several years ago before it kind of looked the way it does now. And it was quite remarkable how they instantly recognized it. Yeah, it's changed so dramatically. And they were like, oh my God, they are fantastic. You could see their faces light up, and that they got something that provided it was like a spoke in the wheel on the journey for Jonathan, but they're still connected. They really do feel connected. So that's great. So that's we look at all different avenues, and then the second from that, 10 years of having the gallery, you tend to, I'd say, build a reputation of treating artists fairly, and that spreads. And so I will say I'm inundated with requests for artists to show, and so that's it. It's a difficult process because quite often we're having to say no, because we do have a specific set of criteria that we look to fill. However, you can't say no to not receiving, because you won't get there one in 100 that is, wow, I'm so pleased they contacted us.
Yeah, this is perfect for us. Yeah,
exactly. So I would encourage artists to contact galleries, definitely, but there are right ways and wrong ways.
we're going to come on to that. We're going to come on to that in a minute. Yeah, hold that thought. We're going to come on to the right way and the wrong way of approaching a gallery. But just to kind of round that off, because you're talking about profitability and morals and how to work with a gallery and how galleries work with artists. What is the hardest thing about being a gallery owner, do you think? Because that sounds lovely. You're going on, you're selling work and you're having people coming in and you're going off to studios and you're finding that all sounds amazing. Who wouldn't want to do that job? However, we all know the reality is it isn't that easy. What's the worst thing?
The worst thing, I think, is being really excited, finding this amazing work and then showing it and not getting that feedback, not getting that response that you have. Because, with 10 years experience, plus all of the things that I've done before, which really kind of led me to this position, I think I've got a good eye. I'm told quite frequently I have a good eye. And then suddenly, for some reason, something just doesn't work. And it can simply be that I've just curated badly, or just it can be one piece out of place that means that everything doesn't gel, and so that is deeply frustrating when you see the work and you see it for its merit, and then suddenly no one else sees that merit. But a change around can absolutely radically alter a client's perspective, a visitor's perspective on how meritorious an artist is, or an individual piece of work. It's amazing how many times we have people come in and see a piece that has been in the gallery for a number of months, and they'll go, "Oh, that's new," and you simply moved it, but you've moved it to its right place. And of course, not everything can have its right place. That you're restricted. There are key positions within the gallery, as there are with any building. Yeah, exactly. And so it can't always be that the right place. So
no, curation is so important, and it is such a skill, and I don't think people appreciate how skillful curating is, and not everybody can do it.
No.
I remember doing a show with someone once, and they were an interior designer, and they said, oh, and they looked at it from a decoration point of view, and I said, no, that's all wrong. We're not doing it like that. And when I did it, she was like, oh, that feels really uncomfortable. And I said, just from a decorator's point of view, it will feel uncomfortable. But this is curation. It's storytelling. It's such a different approach to hanging work. And yeah, it's something that you learn over years and years. You said everything you've done till now. So what did you do before the gallery?
I started out life as an air traffic controller.
Right. Okay. No curation there. Oh, curating planes.
Well, I mean,
yeah, you are. You're curating planes, aren't you?
Yeah. And sort of fell into project management, which evolved into event management.
Lots
and
of
then
curation.
I got, and that was kind of international stuff. So launching cars for various car companies, taking BBC camera crews to sporting events, and then I think I had my first midlife crisis around 30. You shouldn't be restricted to one. You know,
no, I had one about 32.
Yeah, and I got out of that and moved to Sweden and became a chef.
Oh wow!
But literally, I didn't know the language, and I'd had some cooking experience, not a great deal. I did have I've still got a mother who is an amazing cook, and so we'd always eaten well. So I was very, very lucky from that perspective. So I had a keen interest. I travelled extensively and eaten in some of the best restaurants in the world. So it was very important. I just wanted to do it. Plus, I'd had a quite a major operation on my neck, and my neurosurgeon said to me that what was I going to do next? And I said, I quite fancy being a chef. And he said, well, don't do it. You can't do it. And when somebody says to me, you can't do it, that's as tantamount to them saying, go and do it. It's literally, it's a red ball. So I did it, but I made life difficult by moving to Sweden, and then I kind of darted around Europe cooking for the rich and famous and doing various other catering-based jobs, and then moved back, married an artist, and that's it.
Did you meet the artist on the journey, or did you meet her when you came back?
I came back and sold meat to the restaurant. And she happened to be working for one of the clients that I sold meat to. So, there are a lot of allergies there that we won't go into.
It's amazing how life turns out, though, isn't it? I'm very like you. If someone says don't do it, I'm like, okay, stand back. It's going to happen. Yeah,
I'm not going to jump off a building or out of a perfectly good aeroplane because somebody tells me not to. I mean, there are lines that I draw.
Yeah.
But
I always say,
I honestly think my neurosurgeon, he had a measure of me. I mean, this is a guy that deals in brains, isn't it? After all, and so he was like, you will get better, and you'll get better because you want to, and therefore by doing that you will get better.
Yeah,
because it's what you want to do. So
I always say to people, as long I'll try anything once, as long as it's legal and it's not going to kill me. And the legal thing can be a bit.
No comment.
Yeah, legal somewhere.
Yeah.
So rounding that off, then coming to the top tips for artists who are seeking gallery representation. So that's coming to our how to approach a gallery, really. What are your top tips for those artists? Because some don't ever want gallery representation, they just want to do it themselves. No. But those who do,
those that do, there are reasons for that: validity of work. If you haven't got a clue what your work's worth as well, a gallery can help you in that.
If you've got a very busy, I think sometimes if you've got a very, very busy life, you've got quite a complicated life, then mental load is, if you can give that to somebody else and you can find someone else to do it, then that's worth it, and you pay them as a service. That's the commission fee. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's one of the things that we do say to all of the artists, particularly the emerging artists, is that if they are direct selling, they have to value the time that they're doing the service that a gallery or an agent would be. So therefore, they should always charge the same price as the gallery would do, or the agent, because they're actually performing that function. So they should bill themselves for that function.
Exactly. And at some point, they might want to sell in a gallery, and then they've got a hell of a long way to go if they haven't billed that in. That's a big leap to take.
Absolutely. And you know, at the beginning, your work is worth less than towards the end of your career. So it's really important to factor it in at that stage. Because it becomes harder and harder to achieve the higher prices.
So your first top tip really is price your work correctly and include your time in
value your time spent on marketing and finding customers and packing and sending and all of that sort of stuff. Absolutely value that time.
Value your time.
A monetary value. If you're looking for gallery representation, then my first advice is to do a search of the area that you want to initially target, and find a gallery that fits your brief. So do they sell the style of work that you have? Have they got somebody that's doing something very similar at the moment, in which case it's probably not worth contacting them, because you're either going to get a no, or you're going to oust another artist purely and simply because you're cheaper.
That's not good.
And that doesn't, because it doesn't win you friends. And actually, you know, it is quite an insular industry that everyone talks. So it's really advisable. So once you discovered, you know, in the area that you want to target, a gallery or 3 or 4 galleries, is visit them, but not. I wouldn't even talk, or I wouldn't talk about the fact that you're an artist when you'll visit. I would visit and look, see how the staff interact with the visitors. So place yourself as being a customer. You know, it's the best way to find out whether or not they are promoting your work or just holding it, waiting for that person to walk through the door to pick it up and go, oh, I'll have this, because they're infrequent visitors. The work has to be sold. It has to, and a gallery's role is very much being the closest thing to having the artist there all the time. But if the artist was there all the time, they're not making the work.
Exactly. That's the point of having a gallery, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's and this harps back to my studio visits, is that one of the reasons I do those studio visits is so I get background information, so I can then impart that information about the working environment, about the influences, about the lifestyle. You know, it's the little things, it's those little catches. So we're then the closest thing to actually being the artist, and often we're a better version of the artists themselves, because artists continually, and this will happen forever, undervalue their ability.
Because they're artists. They're not salespeople.
There is an insecurity that comes from, and we spoke about this, exposing, you know, your inner self. Art is very much an artist displaying their inner self out there in a very public way. But actually, most of the artists I know have an absolute insecurity about their inner self. So, you know,
that's why I've got a job, Nick.
So
don't dissuade them about that, because that's keeping me employed.
Absolutely not. In fact, that insecurity produces the best possible work.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, that's an artist that's pushing themselves because they want to battle those inner demons.
Yeah,
and it does. It produces the exciting work. It's the stuff that you go, oh wow, that I wasn't expecting that, and then it's it brings a smile to your face. It brings a tear to your eye. It
I
tugs on the
know.
heart. It does all of those things.
Artists spend quite a lot of time in their stretch zone and going to the edge of their stretch zone, whereas the rest of us spend a lot of time in our comfort zone. And that's an interesting dichotomy, which is, as I say, why I have a job, because they need a lot of they need someone to be able to talk to about that, because they are spending a lot of time stretching themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why having a gallery is a really, really important aspect of having a successful art career, because, as you say, it just provides a barrier where they're not having to have, it's like an open wound, isn't it? If they were selling their work all the time, it's like an open wound all the time. So no, you fulfill an incredibly important role. So visit as a customer. I think that's such a good idea. Visit with a customer's psychology.
So then you've got your selection of 3 or 4. You've done your visit. One undoubtedly will speak to you. It will be the one that has resonated with you because they've talked strongly about the work, or they've engaged with you positively. And they're the ones to approach. And the most important thing about the approach is to find out who to approach. And for every year I've had a gallery, my name has been prevalent on my website. I absolutely abhor a contact that can't be bothered to do Dear Nick or Hi Nick.
Yeah.
To whom it concern, or nothing at all, or just hi there. Name is on there, and even if it was Dear Mr. Bils Rye, I wouldn't mind, because at least it's personalised to a certain extent. The generic one, instant. I'm already in a negative zone, because they either they haven't looked at the website or visited the gallery. So they're not really bothered.
No.
So why should I be bothered?
Yeah. So make it personal.
Absolutely, that is the key. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, I will look through, and also I'm in a better mood instantly. So I will review, but I'll review with a positive attitude rather than a negative attitude.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a fault of mine. However,
I just think that's human. I think that's human nature.
It also earmarks how a relationship will develop thereafter. And so if you're personal at the front, at the very beginning, then there's a suggestion that a relationship can be built. And we are in a trust business. Trust is everything. Most of the work comes into galleries is on SOR. So you're, as an artist, you're giving somebody that you don't really know an amount of work, and relying on them to tell you when they've sold something and to pay you in a timely fashion.
It is a trust business.
Absolutely. So I don't understand why a personal approach isn't. And the other thing that we receive quite a lot of is, I'm better than your other artists. I'm now. There's 2 things to consider here. The first one is that art is so individual that
who says better? Who defines? Who's put the boundary on better?
Yeah, well, exactly.
In what way?
Exactly. So it's such an individual thing, and ultimately, it isn't really for an artist to decide whether their work is better than somebody else's. Equally, it isn't really for a gallerist to decide whether it's better or not.
You know what I've just written down for number? Yeah. So do you know what I've written down for number 6? Humility.
Yeah. Humility. It's a really important thing, and it also suggests that if you are that harks back to the insecurity as well, and in that it's not a bad thing, and humility gains friends. It doesn't gain you enemies.
Yeah.
Arrogance can definitely gain you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You can still be confident, can't you? You can still be confident and humble and humble.
Level of confidence in your work is important. It undoubtedly important. It's having that tempered with, or is it as good as so and so, or is it good enough to fit in with what you're doing?
Yeah.
That I think that's it's a really good approach. And another thing that I've discovered over the years is that a lot of people can take a very good photograph of their work, and when you see the work it's not as good as the photograph. And the longer I've been in the business, the better I've got at detecting whether or not it's a very good photograph or it's a very good piece of work. So it's all very well having the studio quality fantastic photograph, but the work's got to back that up, and it can't just be one piece. There's a lot of people out there in the music industry, for instance, that have one hit. And there are a lot of artists that will do exactly the same. And the gallery's responsibility is finding the artists that can go above and beyond that one hit. It's fine to have it as a one hit, but you can't mislead the artist either.
Yeah. So would you say before you approach a gallery, you need to have a decent body of work? And if so, how many pieces would you consider a decent body of work?
I mean, initially we always ask for 3 images. At least 3 images. If an artist supplied me with 5, that's a much better representation.
Okay, so
if those 5 are all very different subjects, again, it's highly unlikely that you'll be selected. It needs to be a coherent body of work that has a fingerprint of the artist. So, something that says, when you look at it, and then 4 months later, you look at another piece by the same artist and you go, that's fine. And that tells you that it's a good artist. So it's working on that without it becoming formulaic. It's a really difficult skill, but it does mark the good artist from the average artist. And it marks those that can or will be able to grow, but still leave a bit of DNA in each of the works that they do. And that's really important. That's what we look for. And what any good gallerist will look for is because it shows the growth, it shows ability, it shows that they care, and also not striving to find the style.
Yeah, they found their language, then the hand of the artist can always be seen through it, no matter what they touch. You will always be able to go, like you said about Jonathan, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at a piece that he did 20 years ago that's like a fish, or the today with the lady, or whatever. You can still see the hand of Jonathan.
Because it was fish.
Was it fish?
It was, yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how accurate you could have been there spying.
I wasn't, I promise. I haven't got a camera in the gallery. Oh God, oh my God, he's found me out. I've had CCTV installed to watch those sculptures. I know how much they're worth. We had them embedded in the sculpture that you came and picked up, but we didn't mention that.
Well, I mean, they just catch me every 10 minutes walking past, giving them a stroke.
That's okay. Look after them. They're very precious. As you know, we don't have many of them. They sell very quickly. So that's brilliant. So have a decent body of work and it be coherent.
Yeah, I think that really says you're already some distance down you're gallery ready.
Yeah.
If you've got that.
Yeah, be
If
gallery
it's
ready.
here, there, and
There you
everywhere.
are. Be gallery ready. That's the next one. So be
Yeah.
gallery ready, which is those 2 points of
Yeah.
have a decent body of work and make sure it's coherent. So that's actually number 7. Oh, I thought I'd gone on to number 9, but I haven't. I've got slipped back to number 8 now.
Number 8 is have an idea of your value. You know,
Yeah.
how at what level do you see your work? You know, at what price level is it going to achieve? And be open to discussion on that.
Yeah, because we had that with Ollie, didn't we?
Yeah.
Because you took Ollie Holman, and of course he's very, very new, and he'd had this, you know, glimpse of fame and lots of people commissioning him after being on the TV, but he didn't have he hadn't got the breadth like we have with Jonathan, of a steady trajectory of pricing. So it was really good for us to be able to have that conversation with you and really kind of identify a price point. We knew where the starting point was, but we didn't really have a certain landing.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, that comes from our experience of the locality and of their client base and you know, the quality of his work.
Yeah, and you were spot on with what you were saying. It needed your voice next to my voice for him to feel confident that we could price them at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite an important thing for an artist to learn. And, you know, he shows all of those factors of humility and
he does.
And not believing in his value, but accepting that it was brilliant to see that he would listen to the two of us combined, and so, you know, and you know, the response to his work from the venue were absolutely amazing. They were straight in, yes, we'd like Ollie to be the PR front
for the Harrogate
event. And for the Harrogate Art Fair, which is absolutely brilliant. So Yorkshire Post and all of the local rag and stuff.
Yeah, no, that was great for him. And he and Jonathan will never be those, they don't have the personality to be brash, but for us, you know, it's building them up really and assuring them that they're great. You know, their work's really good and it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
You know, they'll find their place. They'll find their niche. Yeah. So do you have a final one? Do you have another 9?
Don't take the no negatively.
I was just about to say, I want to finalize this with talking about rejection.
Yeah.
So don't take the no personally.
Look, yeah, I honestly, it may be just that the gallery doesn't think you're right for them, and therefore they aren't.
Yeah.
Because then if you, yeah, exactly, they don't, if they don't feel that they can sell your work, they're not going to sell your work.
No.
So you've got to come away with that positive.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
Yeah, and they might reject you as well for the fact that you're quite close by. So this has been a constant thorn in the side of each of the 3 gallery locations that I've had, is that we've had artists locally, and clients will walk in, they would see beautiful things made, and then they would go directly to the artist to buy. And so eventually, eventually that relationship will sour. So it could be that you're just too close, or you have another gallery that's just too close. And this is another thing that happens, particularly when you get out into the provinces, is that even though it might be a different artist, they use the same palette, they're using the same inspiration, and therefore the work becomes quite samey. So
I had a terrible experience of that when I had my gallery when I was in Buckinghamshire, where I had an artist and she lived up the road, and I was selling her work regularly, and she was being commissioned regularly by clients, and it was going really well. And then one day we had like quite a lot of her work in their gallery. And one day she came in and she went, "I just need to take that piece off the wall." And I was like, no, you're not. And she was like, no, I need that piece off the wall. She takes it off the wall and starts walking out the door. And I was like, what are you doing? You can't do that. And she said, oh, someone came in and they saw it and they want to buy it, so I'm going to sell it to them. And I said, if you take that one piece off the wall, you can take all of your work and I will never sell your work for you again. And she just stood there and she was like, what? I was like,
we are the same person.
This
happened to me in the first year.
Oh, I could not believe it. Yeah. She couldn't understand what the problem was either.
Yeah.
And she did eventually understand. I was like, you've got a choice now. You can literally take that piece and I will never work with you again. And so you've lost the opportunity for me to sell for you ever. And yeah. I've probably made you a decent amount of money. I reckon about 20,000 this year. Or you can put that back on the wall and send the client back in here and we'll sell it and we'll never talk about it again. And that was the decision she made, which was the correct decision. But people,
yeah,
I mean, that was a gallery I had like 20 years ago. And people still talk to me about that because I'm like, we won't name the person, but there were people around me at the time and they still go, do you deal with that gallery, that artist? And I'm like, no.
There's something happened to me in the first year and it still astounds me, absolutely astounds me that it was one of those really quality moments. That's not happening. I just did not witness what just happened there, did I? And you're pinching yourself, going, no way. And I produced a brochure as well for the show, and it was a launch event at the show that it happened. So it was
incredible. It was the fact that they take it off the wall and they walk out of the door, and you're like, no, come back. Can't do that.
Yeah.
We are the same person.
Absolutely crazy.
It is. Yeah. I mean, they're the stories that keep us going, though, and we can have many a glass of wine over those stories. To be honest, they just fuel the fire. But yeah, thank you so much, Nick, for sharing and being so generous in sharing, because artists need to hear these things. Because they'll come to me and I say, what's your goal? What's your ambition? What does success look like for you? And they'll say, I want a gallery. And I go, be careful what you wish for. Do you understand what that means? And
we are a funny bunch of people.
But half of them don't understand the responsibility of what that means either, and the pricing, and they're not taking your work off the wall and walking out the door with it, and all of those things they don't understand. When they're new to it, they don't understand. So it's so good to hear someone like you who's I mean, I tell them, but you're live running a gallery right today, and I think it's invaluable for them to hear that from you. And I'm very grateful for you being so generous to share all of that with all of the artists who will watch this.
That carries on. So if anybody's, they're watching it, they'd like anything clarified, then I'm more than willing to carry on the conversation. So it doesn't just have to stop with this video. If they would like to chat, if there's other galleries out there that'd like to chat as well, it is, I view us as all as colleagues rather than rivals.
I do as well. I think we're all colleagues. Yeah. I think the artists, us, the galleries, we're all colleagues. We're all working for the joint aim of having all of us being able to pay our mortgage, feed ourselves, and be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. And improve the quality of our clients' lives.
Yeah, exactly.
Whilst taking their money.
The people who buy the art they get enormous pleasure. The collectors get enormous pleasure from it. And who wouldn't want to do that? It's a lovely job to do.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. Your contact details will be in so anyone who's watching this now, have a look down in the comments. I love doing that. Have a look down there in the comments. And I will have written the top tips in the comments, so people can read them. And also all of Nick's contact details will be in there as well. So the website and your email, etc. So what I'm going back to you, Nick, now. Be careful what you wish for. Your phone might be ringing off the hook now, and you might be getting a lot of emails, but hopefully they're all start with Dear Nick. Dear Nick.
Yeah, let's hope so. It can be any four-letter word, doesn't matter.
Careful now. Thank you so much, and you and I will speak very soon. But this is great, and thank you so much. All right, have a good evening.
Cheers then. Thanks very much.